Hello there, Creative Imposter Podcast Envy fans. Well, if you are watching this live or tuning into the replay of this on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, I have no idea why I am suddenly framed within a black rectangle. Usually my face is full screen, and this is, I don't know what's happening here or why I'm not full screen. Wait, nope, that didn't work. I feel like every time I hop online to do a live stream, something is different. Either I'm having an equipment issue and I've got to like troubleshoot why I'm having an equipment issue, or something has changed in the software, or there's a setting, or I don't know. It's every time. Maybe if I was to stream daily, maybe nothing would surprise me because it wouldn't be different every single time that I log on here. So if you're watching this replay, you may see my eye line shifting a little bit back and forth. I'm experimenting with using StreamYard to stream to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook at the same time that I'm using my phone to stream to Instagram Live. So that's kind of what I'm doing, is looking at both of these. These sessions that I have, these live sessions that I have for Podcast Envy, are kind of a backstage, behind the scenes type scenario. So you are getting a glimpse into my process of how I create my show and how I think about podcast creation as a solo creator who also produces and creates content for companies, small businesses, nonprofit organizations, particularly those who are purpose driven, for profit or nonprofit organizations who have some kind of shift that they want to see. They have some kind of purpose driven reason why they are creating content, why they are making podcasts. It's not just about selling a thing, though, of course, we're always selling something, which I've talked about in a previous episode of Podcast Envy. And if I haven't introduced myself, I'm Andrea Klunder. I'm your podcast boss. I am the producer and host of Podcast Envy, and I am the founder, producer, and strategist at the Creative Imposter Studios. And this show, this stream, this channel is all about the craft and culture of podcasting. So it's not necessarily a how-to thing, although SEO loves to turn my titles into how to do this, how to do that, how to I don't know. I'm trying to learn more about SEO, and it is frustrating to me how it wants like the same types of titles over and over again. And my former 1 semester long English major self is trying to be creative and craft these different things. And yeah, SEO doesn't seem to like that very much, at least not the tools that I'm using. So being more generic and more how to is the name of the game. But that is not what this show is about. This show is how to create. Look, I just said it wasn't a how to show, and now I'm saying it's how to. I've been brainwashed by the SEO tools. This show is about crafting compelling podcast audio first, even though I'm recording this as a video, compelling audio first messaging and storytelling that helps to illuminate your brand story and help you to connect in a deep way with your audience in a way that allows them to feel a genuine, intimate affinity with your brand, whether that is a company that you're working for, a nonprofit organization that you are part of, or you as a personal brand. And that is what we're about here on Podcast Envy. And part of that is authenticity. It's authenticity of the process. One thing that I have learned recently from talking with some of my best clients is that in the best case scenario, creating a podcast for your brand is not just about who listens to your podcast. It's not just about who is showing up. It's not just about the download numbers in your podcast hosting software. In the best case scenario, creating a podcast for your brand is also about what happens as part of the experience of creating the show. It is about the process as much as, or possibly even more so, than the product. It is about the experience that you are creating for the people who are involved in making your podcast, making your show what it is. This could be team members, this could be other employees where you are working, this could be guests who you are bringing onto your show, and this also includes your audience as part of who is invested in the ecosystem of your show, in the process of your show. And also, as an extension of that, not only is the best case scenario of creating a podcast for your brand about the process, it's also about the entire media and content ecosystem of how and where you are telling your brand story, how and where you are connecting with your people, with your audience. And that is not limited to your podcast. So yes, I am a podcaster. I am a podcast producer. I am a huge fan of podcasting long form, audio first media in order to do all of those things we just talked about. But I recognize that in this current day and age, in this current century, in this current world in which we exist, there are so many different ways that our ideal communities, our ideal audience members, our ideal people who are part of what it is that we are up to in the work of our business, our company, or our organization, come into contact with our brand, come into contact with things that we've created, messaging that has been put out in the world, and with things that other people, other entities, other companies are saying about our brand, our company, our organization. And nowhere is that happening more than right here on social media, where you're watching me in this moment. And if I haven't introduced myself formally for the podcast that I'm going to be releasing in audio format in the Podcast Envy feed, let me do that real quick right now. I always start my Podcast Envy episodes in the same way, which is, welcome to Podcast Envy. I'm your podcast boss, Andrea Klunder. Today we are talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Actually, no, it's not. It's not my favorite topic. And that is why I have enlisted help. Today's topic, social media and podcasting. Oh, I have brought the fabulous Lauren Ramsey onto the show. Lauren Ramsey is the founder of Betsy Bash, our favorite social media agency based right here in Chicago, where the Creative Imposter Studios is based. If you're watching the video of this live stream, either live or replay, Lauren's not here today. But if you're listening to the audio version, which is going to be coming out, I think tomorrow, June 8th, I'm a little behind the times here with my recording schedule, then you will be hearing from Lauren, and you will have the opportunity to go back in time and listen to a previous episode that I recorded with Lauren. This episode is not an interview. This episode is a collection of 5 of the top questions or concerns that I get from our podcasting clients about integrating their show into their social media strategy. And to be honest, a lot of us aren't even really thinking about how we integrate our podcast and our social media. Most of the time, what I see is, let's think about the podcast and then what do we post on our social media channels in order to tell people who are on our social media channel that there is a new podcast episode to listen to. And then hopefully they're going to see that post and they're going to be like, yay, I can't wait to go listen to the next episode. But honestly, it's kind of a flat social media strategy. It's not ideal. It doesn't work that great. And then people get frustrated. They're like, well, I'm posting about every new episode, but it's not helping. I'm not sure that the social media is working for my podcast. And then even worse, they start to feel like, I'm not sure my podcast is working. And then it's like, we have to stop the podcast because it's not working. The social media isn't working. We have to change everything. And really, there is a much better way to go about doing all of this. So I have to make a confession right now in this moment, which is that a lot of times when I am recording for Podcast Envy and doing it as a live stream here, a lot of times I have what I want to say either scripted or I have bullet point notes in my notes app. And I know exactly how it is that I want to introduce the episode. I know what it is that I want to say. However, I also, personality-wise, am very much a verbal processor. So no surprise that I became a podcaster and a podcast producer. I sometimes have an idea about what it is that I want to communicate, what it is that I want to share, what the frustrations are that I want to address for my listeners and for my community and for my audience. But sometimes I just can't get it to come out of my fingers into notes in my notes app. And so I need to actually speak it out loud to process it. So these thoughts about social media and podcasting may not be as well organized in this live format as they will be in the final edited version, because what I'm doing here is I am kind of stream of consciousness processing what it is that I want to say and how I want to frame this episode with Lauren Ramsey as I'm speaking to you here. And then from all of this gobbledygook that I have recorded, it's not gobbledygook, it's gold. Listen to every single moment, every single thing that I have to say. Then after the fact, I'm going to go back in, transcribe what I recorded here in this moment, and make it into something that is much more condensed, cohesive, and really sets up the episode well. And that is what I do as a producer. So it's sort of, again, a behind the scenes meta glimpse into how I sometimes work with my clients. So a lot of the times with my clients, I may be helping them to script what it is they want to say and record on their show. And then we go into the studio or we connect online and we record that thing. And we'll probably make changes and edits as we go, because sometimes the way you script something doesn't sound right when you say it out loud. Or if I script something, sometimes it doesn't sound exactly like the way that host would say it. And so we need to tweak it a little bit. And that is a very collaborative process. But there are other times where we don't have a script, or where what we've scripted just isn't working. It just isn't it. In which case we need to do a little bit of improvisation. In which case we need to do a little bit of free-flowing conversation. And we need to say things a few different ways. And we need to talk it out back and forth and verbally process it while we're listening. Then after the fact, I can take a stream of consciousness conversation that maybe we had for 10 minutes or maybe we had it for 15 minutes, and I can condense that down to 3 or 4 minutes of what it is that we are actually trying to say, that is expressed in a very authentic but very clear way for the listener to consume, digest, and enjoy. So that's a little bit of what is going on here. What I do want to say for sure, what I knew I wanted to say today, is that, did you notice it's summer? It's summer. Well, if you're in the same hemisphere, the same part of the world, I still haven't quite figured out weather climate differences between different parts of the world, even though I've traveled to different parts of the world. I still am not always sure where it is or is not a particular season. But right now, in the Midwest of the United States of America, in Chicago, it is summer. And that means a few things. It means, for a lot of us, the summer slowdown, in our businesses. Where did all the clients go? Where did all the work go? What is happening? And for a lot of us, it means all I want to do personally is go to my gym where they have a rooftop pool and get in the rooftop pool and then lay in a deck chair and soak in the sun with sunscreen, of course. Don't be silly. And so there is this push-pull between the summer slowdown in business that often happens and the desire to not be super productive and working 5 days a week. I mean, this is why we have summer Fridays, right? In a lot of organizations and businesses where like Fridays are off or every other Friday is off in summer, or you can leave early on Friday or whatever it is. When you're self-employed, sometimes it's easy to feel like you're working all the time and there's a million things you should be doing. And like, oh, business is slower, there's fewer client demands. And so I should really be doing the business development right now. All I want to do is hang out by the pool. If you can relate to these two scenarios, the summer slowdown in business and a feeling of not wanting to work as hard, then we're totally on the same page here. And actually, this is perfect timing to do a little bit of business development, company development, messaging development, brand development that doesn't feel hard, that doesn't feel like a ton of work, something that feels fun and engaging. And that is, how are we going to set ourselves up for success when things pick up again in the fall? Or even thinking ahead to how we're going to do things differently in the new year. This means assessing some of the things that we're creating and some of the things that we're doing and asking the question of how could we do this better or more efficiently, or how could we have more fun with this? How could we make this more compelling, more effective? What can we try next that could be better? And this ties directly into your social media and podcasting strategy. So I've been thinking a lot about social media and that I've been working more with Lauren. Oh, actually, that's what I should say. So part of what has inspired all of this, and if you've been listening to the last few episodes of Podcast Envy, you already know this. This year, Lauren Ramsey of Betsy Bash and I decided to team up for, that's a weird gesture. We decided to team up for you, to help you with this conundrum of feeling like you are constantly on the content hamster wheel, generating podcast episodes, generating social media posts, making TikToks and Reels, trying to figure out what the heck to put on YouTube, trying to figure out what the algorithms want. And you have these silos of content that are not all integrated, and you're working hard at trying to fill all of these silos. And then on top of that, a lot of the times it feels like you're not really sure whether it's working or doing anything. And then on top of that, you're not a social media company. You're not a media company. You're supposed to be doing all this other work, which is the actual work of the thing that you're supposed to be doing. And this sort of feels like a distraction, and you're not really sure how it's supporting the work. So what we wanted to do was team up to bring my brain and her brain together about podcasting content and social media strategy, and figure out how we could streamline this process for you so that you're not spending as much time and energy and frustration on trying to figure out who, what, when, where, why, what on earth are we doing on any of these platforms. And when I think about social media, when I really think about it, I realize that it's two things, right? It is social and it is media. And I, as a podcast producer, as a narrative storyteller, I am great at the media part. Like, media is my thing. I love to create media. I'm very good at it. And that is where I'm comfortable. That's my zone of excellence. It's my wheelhouse. The social part, it's a a little bit of why I got out of theater, to be honest. The social part I'm not as great at. But that is where the social media expertise comes in, because Lauren is able to take a look at the engagements that you are getting on your social media platforms, the ways in which you are interacting with your people there. And that's one of the frustrating things that a lot of my clients and colleagues have found about podcasting is that sometimes podcasting feels very one directional. It feels like I am creating this content, I am recording this thing, and then I am sending it to you, and then I hear crickets. I don't know if you're listening to it. I don't know how much you're listening to. I don't know what you like. I don't know if it's interesting. I don't know if you tuned out 30 seconds in. I don't know if you're referring it to anybody. I don't get feedback. I don't know who's listening. I see those numbers in my stats, but I don't know anything about those people. And since I don't hear from them, I don't even know if they're real or are they bots. In the social media world, sometimes we get so focused on content, on media, on what to post, how often to post, when to post it, that we forget that there's this whole social engagement piece that is very important and maybe even more important than the content that you're posting. So Lauren and I thought, well, why don't we join forces so that you don't have to worry about what to post? Your podcast is generating so much incredible content that you can have content for days, weeks, months, years based on your podcast. And then we can also look at what is and isn't working. Where is your engagement coming from? Where is it getting stuck? And then that can help you with the social piece, with the engagement, with the dialogue, with the conversation. So it's not just posting media. Is it working? And this starts to make the whole environment, the whole ecosystem that you're creating for your brand online, something that your audience can just pour themselves into in whatever way they happen to be consuming content and interacting in the online space in that moment. It gives them a way to respond. It gives them a way to interact with the content that you're creating, whether or not they actually ever listen to your whole long form podcast. Weird, right? And if they are listening to your whole long form podcast, this gives them another way to stay engaged in between episodes, in between seasons. It reminds them that the show is coming. It keeps them connected. It keeps feeding that relationship and making it stronger and stronger and stronger. And a lot of times what I see is because organizations and companies have two different departments or two different people or two different sets of agencies that are creating content and coming up with strategies separately for their podcast and separately for their social media and then separately for whatever other marketing that they're doing, when all of these things are separate, they're not efficient. They're not as effective. They're not working together. It's so frustrating for me to see an organization that I know has a great podcast full of very rich content, and then they post something on social about the same thing that they have on their podcast, but then they never tie it back to the podcast. So the person who's seeing the social post and is interested in that, they don't have a way to go deeper. They don't have an easy way to see, ooh, this is interesting, I want to learn more, to bookmark it, to come back to later, to know that there's a more for them to have. And then likewise, in podcast content, there's no engagement back to social media. Most of the time what I hear, and I'm even guilty of this myself, most of the time what I hear is, oh yeah, at the end of this episode, like, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and here's the handle. And it's like, well, here's all the platforms, follow us there. But yeah, why? Why am I going there? What more is happening? What more conversation is happening? How more can I engage with you? Are you live streaming? Are you talking about the episode? Are you starting a conversation there? Are you asking questions? Do you have a LinkedIn newsletter? Like, how is it that you want me to engage with you? Make it easy. Make it easy for me to interact. I'm your podcast listener. I'm your fan. I'm giving you a lot of time and attention. You don't know that because you haven't made it easy for me to do that. I'm your social media follower. I love what you post. I constantly see your posts in my feed and I find it very entertaining, but I want more. I want to feel more of a connection to you. Make it easy for me to come listen to your podcast. And when this relationship can be more symbiotic, then you're going to see results. It's inevitable. I think the primary reason why brands, especially, are not seeing results with their podcast is because it's this separate thing over here that's not fully integrated in the rest of their communication strategy. And the reason why brands are frustrated that their social media efforts are not working to drive listeners to their podcast is because it's not integrated. It's just a flat one-dimensional thing of like, here's a post with our new episode. Here's an audiogram with our new episode. Here's the audio of our episode on YouTube, which I do say you should do that, but it's not the whole thing. It's not the whole enchilada, and I'm getting hungry for Mexican food right now. I wish I didn't say that. So, this is the thing. We wanted to make this more better for you. We wanted to make social media and podcasting even more effective, enjoyable, integrated, efficient, all those words that start with an E or an I. And now I'm thinking of Old MacDonald, how to farm E-I-E-I-O. I need something that starts with O. More optimized. There we go. We've got some E words, efficient, effective, enjoyable, I words, integrated, and O words, optimized. How's that for some marketing and business buzzwords for you? I told you I was a language person and I was a verbal processor. Did I not say that? Okay, so this service that Lauren and I created this year is called the Creative Bash. When you sign up for the Creative Bash, we're going to dig into all your socials, we are going to dig into your socials. We're going to dig into your show. We're going to dig into your brand. And we're going to ask you a ton of questions. Then we're going to see if what you say in your questions is what we find online and where the opportunities are for you to do this even better. This is going to save you so much time. This is going to save you consulting budget money. This is going to save you frustration. And this is going to save you from disappointment, which if you're anything like me, saving you from disappointment is like a high ticket offer, right? Please save me from disappointment that all of my efforts are not working the way I feel like they should be. So that's the Creative Bash. And there will be a link in the comments of the replay of this video for you to drop some information into a Google form for us. And then we will reach out to you to schedule a complimentary call with us if we think that we can help you. We'll reach out to you either way, but we'll have the complimentary call if we think that we can help you. So there's no risk. It just takes a few minutes to give us the information that we need to see if it's a good fit, a match made in Creative Bash heaven. And the reason why it's called the Creative Bash, side note, remember what I was saying about media and social, and how I'm really strong in media and Lauren's really good in social engagement. This is where that name Creative Bash comes from. So it's the creative imposter, the media creation side, and then it's the Betsy Bash, which is the social side, the party, the bash. It's an invitation to join us at the bash and to be creative about the way that you show up. That's what it is. I just made that up. It's an invitation to be social at the bash and be creative about the way you show up. New tagline. Lauren, I hope you like it because we're going to use it. All right. So what you are going to hear, so fill out the Google form. Let us know that you're curious about the bash, and then we'll connect with you to see if it's a good fit. From there, what we do is we're not calling it a discovery call. Hold on. I hate the phrase discovery call. No discovery calls. From there, what we do is we have we have a more detailed questionnaire. Then we have a strategy intensive session with you and Lauren and me. And then you get to take a breath and relax. we mix everything up in our witch's cauldron of goodness and whisper some incantations, throw in an eye of Newt and a puppy dog's tail. And out of that comes your strategy. Then we'll get together for your strategy reveal. And this will include some podcasting things, and this will include some social things. This will include some easy quick fixes and some deeper areas of exploration. We'll map out your next steps for you. And then there will be a review period where you have some time to let that soak in and you can ask us further questions. We can adjust and tweak some things that come to us after the strategy reveal. And then from there, either you go forth and create content and be social about it on your own, and you can always check back in with us another time when you need a refresh, or there are other ways that we can continue to support you in your social podcasting journey. Ugh, corny. In the experience of integrating your social media with your podcast content in a way that fully aligns with your brand and highlights affinity with your audience. That's what it is. All right. So, what you are going to hear in the episode that is coming out tomorrow on the Podcast Envy feed, what you are going to hear in the rest of the episode is 5 tips from Lauren about your social media strategy as relates to your podcast. And again, this is not an interview format. This is basically, I was like, here are the 5 things that I keep hearing from folks. What do you think about this? What comes to mind? And we kind of went back and forth with a few ideas and a few examples. They're short, quick tips. And then if you're like, all of this sounds really cool, like I would like some more strategies, I would like to learn more, of course, we want you to connect with us for the Creative Bash. Of course, that's like the number one top thing that we want you to do. However, if that is not in your budget at this moment, or if that's not something that you can commit to time-wise because you've got a rooftop pool to go hang out at all summer, or a camping in the woods excursion that's going to be for the next 30 days, I'm not judging you at all because that's where I want to be. So if that's the case, I have excellent news for you. And I kind of buried the lead here a little bit on this. And that is that Lauren and I are offering a Podcast Envy virtual masterclass on Zoom on Thursday, June 29th. Is that the date? Why do I always do this to myself? I always don't have the details in front of me. It's going to be at 11 a.m. Central. It's 1 hour long. It's about 45 minutes of content plus 15 minutes of interactive Q&A. So if you sign up, yes, Thursday, June 29th, 2023 at 11 a.m. Central. So check your time zone. And it is how to grow your podcast like a social media influencer. So in this, we're going to give you some mindset things, and we're going to give you some specific strategies. And this is a framework that will help you to make your social media decisions around your show and shift your thinking so that you can do this more effectively and more enjoyably on your own, and you don't feel like you're on that constant hamster wheel wondering why nothing feels like it's working. If you sign up for this class, scratch that. When you sign up for this class, you'll be able to attend live on Thursday, June 29th and participate in the interactive Q&A session. If you want to be part of this class, but you can't join live at that time, you can get the replay later, and that's fine. The great news is that you can even submit your top questions to us ahead of time so that we can be sure to answer them during that Q&A so that you won't miss out on the opportunity to ask us some questions. Podcast Envy Masterclasses are valued at $99, and right now you can get 50% off of your ticket when you use the promo code VIP invite. Let me see if I have. Yes, here's a banner. So you can sign up for the class on Eventbrite. The easiest way to find it is to go to thecreativeimposter.com/masterclasses, thecreativeimposter.com/masterclasses. That'll take you to the Eventbrite page. You'll see the class with me and Lauren. And then when you go to check out, you want to enter the promo code VIP invite to get 50% off your ticket. Hot tip. If you want to come for free, ooh, we love that word free, right? If you want to come for free, I am going to be sending out a Podcast Envy email newsletter this weekend with a limited number of free tickets, first come, first serve, available. So if you want the opportunity to grab one of those free spots in the masterclass, you want to make sure that you are on the Podcast Envy email list. How can you do that? Well, you can go to, hold on, what's the easiest way to sign up for my email list? Hang on, I want to make sure this is correct before I say it. You can go to podcastenvy.com. When you go to podcastenvy.com, you can click any episode. And at the bottom of that episode show notes, you will see a box where you can drop your email to get 5 questions you haven't asked about your podcast. When you put your email address there, 5 questions you haven't asked about your podcast, you will get 5 questions you haven't asked about your podcast delivered to your email, and you'll be on the list to get that email this weekend that has the promo code to get a free seat to our masterclass. So I hope that wasn't too complicated. I will put all of this in the comments of the live stream, and I will also be putting it in the show notes for the episode that is coming out on Thursday, June 8th. So all of these links and resources will be in the show notes, in the episode description in your app, and of course at podcastenvy.com. Get on the email list to get a promo code for the free spot to the masterclass. If you miss out on that, or you just don't want to be on the email list, that's fine. You can use VIP invite to get 50% off the masterclass. Send us your questions ahead of time. We'll be sure to answer them during the Q&A, or show up live and hang out with us, and then we can have a conversation specifically about your show. All right. That is what we are up to. The Podcast Angel for this episode, Podcast Angels are those products, services, events, and resources that I think will really help you to have a better experience podcasting. The Podcast Angel for this episode is the Creative Bash and the Social Media Influencer Masterclass. So those are our Podcast Angels. I already told you all about them. And I am super excited to share with you 5 social media tips for your podcast from Lauren Ramsey right now. And then just a little thing that I want to record for the end of the episode after the 5 tips with Lauren. If you loved these tips and you can't wait to get more, be sure to sign up for the Podcast Envy Masterclass Thursday, June 29th at 11 a.m. Central. Use the promo code VIP invite to get 50% off, and click the link in the show notes to sign up for a free consultation about the Creative Bash so that we can help get your podcast and social strategy in sync. All right, that's what I got for you. If you want to know what Lauren's 5 tips are, check out the Podcast Envy episode that drops tomorrow, June 8th at podcastenvy.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. Drop your questions and feedback about social media and podcasting in the comments of this stream. I just might answer.